Good morning and welcome for those of you who've come from some distance to Washington, D.C. for our Social Side Conference. I guess in the era of the hashtag, we had to produce a hashtag for this body of research and applied research that we're looking at today. And social side seemed to be a particularly apt summary of what is basically a paradigm shift which is happening in the world of education change and academic and education reform. And we're here today to look at that paradigm shift. And what's particularly interesting and distinguishes this, I think, from previous paradigm shifts is that it is really grounded in the work that happens in classrooms and schools. We've been through a number of cycles of education in which models that were developed without any real reference to what goes on in the real world of students and teachers have transformed the world of American education, and not always for the better. And we now have a shift which in a very important way looks at that differently and is grounded at what teachers and students do every day in their classrooms and in their schools. I want to, before we start, I want to make a few thank yous. There are two organizations that have been helpful in our work and have donated money to help put this conference on. And I want to publicly thank both of them, the National Public Education Support Fund with Dan Leeds and Terry Schuck. And the Campaign for Grade Level Reading out of the Annie E. Casey Foundation with Ralph Smith and Yoli Flores. I also want to publicly acknowledge two individuals in the Schenker Institute without which none of this work and none of this conference would be here for you today. About 9 months ago, I said to Esther Quintero, you know, the AERA conference is in Washington, D.C., and so we have to put on a conference, a one-day conference on all of the social side work we've been doing. And Esther's took that idea and ran with it. She is tireless. She is relentless. She has a devotion to detail, which is the envy of every organizer in Washington, D.C. And she really has made this conference the success that it will be. And I also need to thank Vicki Thomas, who's hiding in the shadows somewhere, as she always does. But Vicki is the one that puts together your packets and gets you organized and makes sure that we can feed you and all of the other things that makes it possible for us to do the work we do here today. And so it's very important, I think, to acknowledge their work at the beginning of this conference. I now want to introduce to you our keynote speaker. It is always a very easy introduction to do because everybody knows who she is. Everybody knows her accomplishments in the field of education. But it is always an introduction that I enjoy particularly because Randi and I have known each other for a far longer time than either one of us are willing to admit publicly. But that our friendship began together in a school in Brooklyn and in a classroom where we did many of the things that we're going to talk about today. And so it's particularly appropriate that Randi would open this conference because a paradigm shift which is grounded in classrooms and in schools is in many ways what her work has been about all of these years. Randi Weingarten.